Hello everybody and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am, you already know who this is. It's Dan. Dan, how are we, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Sweet as, mate. We got a nice little chat before the video to discuss some of our Premier League predictions. So we'll be running through the key title challenges, top four, Europa League contenders, mid-table mediocrity, and relegation candidates. So title challenges, first and foremost. It's got to be either Liverpool or City, surely.
Yeah, this wasn't the headache, was it? It was, for me, I put down City. I think it's their year. They've made some good signings. Ake, potentially Koulibaly. Who else? That Ferran Torres. I just think they'll be a different animal this season.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. I think once you get Ake and Koulibaly, it's going to be a brilliant centre-back pairing. I think it sorts out a huge issue for Manchester City that they've had over the past few seasons. And even when they've won Premier League titles, you know, their centre-backs have been a real problem. I haven't even mentioned Laporte in there. So I think when you've got Laporte, Koulibaly, Ake, you know, you've actually got a little bit of strength in depth, which they haven't had in that position. Fernandinho can slot in. I think they'll improve massively this season, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Torres is a nice replacement for Sane as well, because I worried when Sane left. I thought, well, you know, will the tail just come off a bit? But they've got Sterling, you know, they've got a lot of options and they've got a better squad than Liverpool. So I just think Pep will, you know, unleash a new animal in the season and, you know, they'll really invest this summer to try and keep up and keep Liverpool out of the picture.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the only weak area that they've got for them is their fullbacks now. I think particularly with the left fullback. Obviously, Benjamin Mendy come in, and we saw him at Monaco. You know, he was brilliant over there. Comes in as a brilliant first couple of games, and he's never really regained that form. He's, for me, a little bit lazy in his position. Obviously, he's great going forward. I think they haven't addressed that. And it's a weird one, isn't it? Pep spends most of his money on fullbacks. He's got Cancelo, Kyle Walker. So I'm interested to see how he plays it because I've seen Cancelo play left back. So he's happy to do that. He's happy to move him around.
Yeah, maybe Ake can play there as well. You never know. But I liked, when we played City a few seasons ago, I thought Zinchenko, I was really impressed with him. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch, but I'm not sure what's happened to him. Like you say, Mendy's had a few fitness problems. You know, which has affected him. But no, they've got some good players, and maybe Cancelo, they thought he's not been as good as they thought he would be. But no, they can definitely rotate, and they've got options.
And I think as well, this season we're going to see Phil Foden emerge. Obviously, David Silva is off to Real Sociedad. Read into that what you will with that funny little transfer rumour to Lazio. But I think Phil Foden comes in. I think he looks a really good player. You know, we're really fortunate, you know, England, that we've got these real generational talents, Greenwood, Foden. I think Foden's going to take it to the next level, mate. He's really good, really mobile. I think maybe one criticism of David Silva is he doesn't have that yard of pace that gets him away from players, but I think Foden sort of matches the both where he's very good at getting past players, but he's got good end products.
Yeah, his quality, isn't he? You know, a sign of a good player is when they get the ball, they know what they're doing, and Foden just strikes you as that kind of player. He's got a shot on him as well. He gets in the right positions, and I think he's that natural replacement for David Silva, because you could say Silva's arguably irreplaceable, but they think Foden's going to be even better. So that just naturally fits in. It saves them money, and Foden, you know, could have his breakthrough season.
Yeah, and I think sort of the overarching sort of result of last season is City are going to want to get that back on Liverpool, aren't they? They're going to want to, you know, take to the league really strongly, get a few good results in early doors. And I think, to be honest, they'll be a bit too strong for Liverpool over the course of 38 games.
Yeah, I don't think City surprised me last season. I don't think they really challenged for much. I don't think, you know, obviously they had a few injuries. Aguero got injured, which is a massive blow. But I just think Guardiola would have been frustrated in the fact that, you know, they didn't really challenge Liverpool. It was more of an easy ride for Klopp's men. So.
Yeah, so let's talk about Klopp's men. Obviously, did really well last season. That points tally is really impressive. They haven't won the league, they haven't won the Premier League at all. So it was a good little result for them. I haven't seen too much in terms of them strengthening, which is why I have them second place. But if they get Thiago in, I think that's a game changer for me.
Oh, Thiago. I don't think people speak about Thiago enough. And me and you love him.
What a player.
I know he's like 30, but he could go on for a few more years. And I think if he comes to the Premier League, he'll be one of their best players. Be one of the best midfield players.
I think there's a lot of things. Yeah, go on, mate. Sorry, I'm interrupting because I'm getting excited.
No, you can go. I think he's De Bruyne level. That's what I was going to say. I think he's De Bruyne quality.
I think he's not outright in terms of his goals and assists, definitely. But when you watch him play, what an intelligent player! You know, can pick it up off of the back four. Really comfortable playing defensively. Can drive through players. Got an unbelievable first touch. You know, when we're talking about the style of Liverpool's play, they're going to want to get that ball in a sixpence and go with it, and and release Mane and Salah. And I think Thiago's that player that can do it. They've got an engine room with someone like a Wijnaldum or a Henderson, but Thiago's a different level, and I think he's just one of them players. He's done well in Spain. He's done well in Germany. He's just intelligent. And I think as well, he's in the last year of his contract. So I think that's going to mean that he's going to look to go and Bayern are going to look to recoup money. But Bayern have already got Joshua Kimmich as well that can just slot into that whole.
Yeah, exactly. I think as well, £30 million is the quoted price is just an absolute bargain. Even for someone of his age, he always knows what he's doing. His passing range is exceptional. He can have a shot. He just sits in front of the back four so nicely. I know Gini Wijnaldum does that really well, or Henderson, but I think if they want to, sustain that top level of football, they need someone like a Thiago who can come in and give competition for places. And they've also got that left back, what's his name, that Tsimikas.
Yeah.
So he can come in and do a job. But for me, they need forward options as well, because Salah, Mane and Firmino cannot play every game. I just think it's too much to ask of them, especially now that they're aging as well. So.
Yeah, which is why I thought it was surprising they didn't go for Timo Werner. Obviously, we'll touch on Chelsea, but I think Timo Werner for 49 million would have been a brilliant signing for them. I don't think Firmino has impressed as much this season. I know a lot of Liverpool fans think he does a lot for the team, and I don't watch enough of Liverpool to suggest that that's true or not. But Werner's an out and out goal scorer, mate. He'll get you 20 plus goals in the league.
He will. He's a top player. I remember a few years ago we were after him as well, depressingly.
No shock.
We've been linked with everyone, haven't we? But I think Werner will do well. But it's surprising. They've got Minamino, I guess. They've got Origi, but if they want to move Origi on, maybe. But no, I think the difference between Liverpool and City ultimately is the squad depth.
Yeah, and I think that's what we'll tell over the 38 games. Let's go to Chelsea, because I think me and you believe that they'll finish third. Now, Chelsea are making a lot of signings this window. Clearly, obviously, that transfer ban has worked out for them in a weird way, where they saved all that money. Now they can spend it in a market where the prices have gone. Timo Werner, Ziyech, potentially Chilwell to come in. Hopefully not Declan Rice. They're looking at a real strong outfit for me. This will be the test for Frank. If he can get these players working from minute go, it will be a success. Equally, he spent a lot of money. If he can't do it over this season, his job's kind of on the line.
Yeah, exactly. Frank's had the backing now. I know last season it was difficult, like you said, because of the transfer ban. But even last season, against Spurs away, they looked really, really good. I know they've lost Willian, but for me, they've identified the weaknesses, and now they're moving players on and they're getting younger players in, like Chilwell, Ziyech as well. Werner, Pulisic will have another good season. So they look a real strong threat for me, and they could even challenge Liverpool or City for the title. There's no question about it. But it'd be interesting to see how they do, and if Frank needs to succeed, there's a lot of pressure on him now because he's had a lot of backing. So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, and they've got, we haven't even mentioned Pulisic. Pulisic was looking unreal near the tail end of last season. I think him, Werner, Ziyech, that's a really good attacking three, and they're going to cause some defensive problems this season.
Yeah, they are completely. I like Pulisic a lot. He's just a real talent. He reminds me a bit of Eden Hazard, the way he just runs with the ball. He's quite a direct threat. So it'll be interesting to see how he does, and Ziyech as well. I like Ziyech. We were linked with him a few years ago as well, or recently, and I think Ziyech's different gravy. Maybe, I don't know how he'll adjust, maybe, but I think he's a top player as well that'll complement Chelsea's system. Yeah,
and they've got loads of really good FPL assets for me to pick from, which is going to be nice next season. Manchester United, fourth. Now, United had a really good end to the season. Obviously struggled against us a bit because we were a little bit too good for them. And Pogba was scared of the ball. But I think United will build on some of their attacking talent. I think Bruno, albeit scores a lot of penalties, he's a good player, isn't he? In that number 10 role. And Greenwood's only going to get better. I think Martial, give him a full season at 9. I think he scores you 20 plus goals. I think United will finish top 4.
Yeah, completely, mate. I agree with you. United last season, towards the end of last season anyway, they looked a real threat. They were one of the best teams, weren't they, statistically as well? Greenwood's only going to get better. Martial's underrated. You've got Rashford, you've got Bruno. Then you've got that defensive solidity. You've got Brandon Williams coming through. Wan-Bissaka looks good. Young players as well. But for me, they need to improve in a centre-back position.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've had the speculation around Maguire recently. Where does he go from there? Or, but they need someone next to Maguire because I think Lindelof, Bailly, they're all inconsistent.
Yeah, and we can even talk about the goalkeeper, mate. Henderson's come back to United, obviously. Sheffield United have gone and signed Ramsdale. So Hendo's potentially the number one for me because De Gea's form has dropped off massively over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, completely. Henderson's signing a new deal, isn't he? Which may suggest something. I don't know if it bumps up his price or what. But no, there's no reason why Henderson can't challenge De Gea. De Gea's, he made a lot of mistakes last season, didn't he? I think it was in the semi-final of the cup. Mason Mount had a shot and it was straight at him and he fumbled it. And yeah, completely. I don't see why not. Henderson's impressed for Sheffield United the last 2 seasons. He's done really well, and I think he's a top goalkeeper.
Yeah, no, I think if United can identify some transfer targets in that centre back position, I think the only standout defensive player for them is Wan-Bissaka. I think he's solid. I think his tackle rate is ridiculous. He really rarely gets beaten, and he's good at coming forward. So for me, if they can strengthen there, they could push a Chelsea or maybe even a Liverpool, but I think they will finish 4th. I can't see them bringing in too many players now.
It surprises me, mate, why they didn't go for Nathan Ake.
Well, you see the clip. You see the clip of Ollie with Nathan
Ollie
Ake.
going like that. We need a left centre back.
Left-sided centre back. Yeah. He's like gonna
no, but they're after Gabriel as well. I think from Lille. I'm not sure if they've made a concrete offer, but I know they've been interested. So I think they'll be sniffing around centre backs, but I think they should have gone for Nathan Ake. So
yeah, I agree, mate. I think 41 million is a good value for a decent up and coming centre back who's already proven it in the league. So yeah, I think United finished 4th. We then go to the Europa League contenders. Me and you have both gone for Arsenal in 5th place. So that'll annoy some Tottenham fans, hopefully.
Yeah, certainly. No, I think Arsenal, a bit like Chelsea. I think Arteta's going to have the backing. They didn't really have that last season because he came midway through or something? They've got good players as well. Pepe's going to get better. Aubameyang, new deal. They've got Willian, albeit he's 32, but he's another talent. He's experienced. He's going to provide a different dynamic. And then you've got Saka, Martinelli. So they've got some real talent coming through. And I think a few years they could challenge for the title.
Yeah, and I think the biggest sort of bugbear for Arsenal fans has been their defensive quality. I think the most impressive element of Arteta's management is having Dani Ceballos and Granit Xhaka play a holding midfield role, but show a good level of work rate and intensity to support the back four. I think you've got the likes of Kieran Tierney's going to come on leaps and bounds. I was really impressed with him last season in particular. His delivery from that left side supports Aubameyang, sets up a lot of goals from there. Martinez as well coming through, Leno with that injury. Martinez has been superb for them. So I think he'll go on and he'll improve. And that's why I think Arsenal get that right mix this season and start competing, maybe for the top 4, but certainly 5th place for me.
Yeah, you're right, mate. They need the balance. I think last year they're a bit too attack heavy, if you like. Maybe they can improve the right back position because I know Tierney cemented that left back spot, but Bellerin's a bit temperamental, inconsistent, if you like. But it just reminded me when you're speaking about Dani Ceballos, then that's what Thiago's like as a player. I think Dani Ceballos is a quality player. Always knows what he's doing, never really loses the ball. Hence why he's from Real Madrid, really.
Yeah, says it all.
But yeah, no, I think Arsenal will only get better. They've got Gabriel as well coming in. So if they identify their weaknesses in defence mainly, I think up front they've got a lot of options. Then they'll have a good season.
Yeah, and of course they'll be closely followed by the bottle jobs Tottenham Hotspur with Jose Mourinho. Now, on a serious note, I will try and keep it neutral with Tottenham, but they've got a half-decent squad. Harry Kane is an unbelievable finisher. If they can keep him fit, they will 100%, challenge for top 4. I think Heung-min Son helps them out a lot. His mobility in that front line to support Kane is integral. The Celso's a fantastic player as well. His passing ability, his ability to dribble past players as well is important. Yep. I think a full season or a season just gone under Mourinho, a full pre-season, and Mourinho will start to get his team working in the way that he wants them to.
Yeah, of course he will. Like you said, they've got Lo Celso's a good player. Harry Winks. Who else have they got? They got that new signing, Højbjerg, who's a good player. I'm not sure will he take them to the next level. I'm not really sure. I think Højbjerg's an improvement on what they have. And then they've got Kane, like you said. They've got Lamela. But for me, they need more forward options behind Kane, because if Kane looks to leave, if they're not going to progress, then I think they were looking at a Zambian forward. I can't remember his name, but he's a good player. So maybe they could look at him, or someone like Ollie Watkins, because I think they need reinforcements up front, because I know Kane, his injury record hasn't been great recently. So yeah, but no, I don't see them challenging for the top four. That's not just a bias thing, but I don't think the squad's good enough.
Yeah, they're a weird one, Tottenham. I think for a couple of years now, that centre-forward position has obviously been occupied by Harry Kane, and he's done quite well to stay fit for a long period of that and really get the goals that they've needed. I think Tottenham are actually really good in the attacking midfield sense. Lucas Moura, Bergwijn as well come in January. I think these are really good options for them, and they support Kane. But they need each other. Do you know what I mean? One without the other doesn't work. Kane's not the most mobile forward, so he needs pace to support him. It's a question really with Tottenham, can they get the transfer window right? If they bring in decent, squad depth, they can push. But I can't see it. They're not indicating to me that they've got the money to spend.
Yeah, that strikes it with me as well, mate. And I think as well the fullbacks for Spurs are an issue. You've got Serge Aurier, I think he's good going forward, but he's a bit like Masuaku in that sense. Defensively, he's not very sound. And then you've got Ben Davies, who's I like Ben Davies. He's solid, but I don't think he's Spurs level. I don't think he's top four level. And they've got Tanganga as well, who's rated very highly, so he could come through. But no, I think they need to spend a bit of money, Spurs, this season, and maybe bring in a few players, maybe 5 or 6, to even push for a starting position.
Yeah, and then we come to the ones that will push them all the way. I imagine Leicester and Wolves. Now, they've had really good seasons. Obviously, Wolves did really well to get to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. Leicester have got Champions League football. How do you see it going with those two teams? Do you think they'll improve, or do you think they'll level out this season?
Wolves have had I don't know, they had the longest season out of all Premier League teams, didn't they, with the Europa League and stuff and competitions like that. It depends for me if Wolves and the likes of Leicester can keep their important players, because I know Chilwell, you've got Adama Traore for Wolves, you've got Jimenez. They need to keep hold of these players, but they also need to invest and spend the money wisely if these players go. Say if Leicester get 50 million for Chilwell, you can look at getting maybe Rico Henry for 10 million. You can look at investing in the centre-backs as well, maybe a few forward options behind Vardy, or to even push Vardy, because Vardy's 33 now. So it depends. I think out of the two, I think Wolves will tail off more, because Wolves have exceeded expectations this season, but I think it'll catch up on them.
Yeah, it's a weird one, mate. I mean, starting with Leicester, I think they've got a really balanced, good midfield. Indeed, he's one of the best defensive midfield players in the league. James Maddison will come back from injury and offer him a little bit more going forward, because I feel like towards the end of the season, they struggled in creating chances. And they kind of were relying on Harvey Barnes to come on and use his pace and support Vardy. I think Vardy's going to become not necessarily an issue, but we've seen from Vardy, he's one of them players where he can not score for 10 games and then he can go and score for the next 10 games. So they don't really have a lot to switch it up with. I know they brought in Iheanacho a few years ago. He hasn't really impressed. I think where Leicester did really well and obviously won the league was they had the Okazaki, Ulloa come in. They had players that could play a role and nick the odd goal. I think defensively, Leicester may struggle if they let go of Chilwell, potentially Soyuncu as well. Like you said, I think if the recruitment's right, and we've seen from Leicester that they can recruit really well, and they bring in a Rico Henry and spend 40 million maybe up front, I think that could balance it out. I can't see them pushing the same way that they've done this season. I think they will get Europa League, or at least push towards it, maybe do well in the cup, but for me, not too sure on them.
Yeah, I think the Champions League will take it out of them as well, mate. I think, if they have a tough group, I think they'll do well. But I think maybe Brendan Rodgers might think, do we go far, or do we prioritise, the Premier League? Because if they have a tough group, they probably won't get through it most likely. And then it's just a lot of games, mate. It depends what they prioritise. And for me, like you said, they must prioritise getting a replacement for Vardy or pushing him, because I know they had Okazaki, they had variability up front a few seasons ago, but they've lost that now. Iheanacho, I like Iheanacho, but he's not top level, is he? So then they need to think about that and get the players Rodgers wants this summer.
Yeah, and you said it as well with Wolves. I think that's kind of their issue as well. They've got good players in their peak. Jimenez is obviously 30. He's done really well for the past 2 seasons as well.
Yeah.
They've kind of, like I said to you just before coming on, that balance between youthful players and aging players isn't quite there. There's no player really in their peak. It's kind of they're either coming up there 22, 23, Podence, Neto, who've obviously got potential. And then you've got the slightly older members of the squad, Cody, Willy Bolly. So it's, for me, with them, they've got to bring in players that improve on the quality they've already got, but have also got the potential for the next 2 or 3 seasons to carry them and keep them in that same position. A club like Wolves that have done so well to get to this point, they need to stabilise for maybe a season or 2 before they look to push on.
Yeah, I can only pinpoint, I think like Neves is 22, 23, obviously Podence, Ruben Vinagre, players like that. But, Jimenez is 29, Traore is 24, 25. Moutinho's aging, so they do need a balance, which is what they don't have, and which is why they may get caught out a bit next season. It depends who stays for them. It really does. Traore's kind of irreplaceable. You're not going to get a player like him again. Jimenez is a goal scorer, but if you can get 50 million for him, maybe you can look to recoup it elsewhere. So, but yeah, Wolves for me, they need younger players, well, or more experienced players, and they need to invest.
Yeah. So then we come to mid-table mediocrity, which is a little bit harsh considering some of the teams we're going to mention. But me and you kind of had the similar-ish teams, but in different places. So around the 9th and the 10th, I actually went for Burnley pushing 9th. I can't remember who you went for, but who did you
Southampton.
Southampton, yeah. So for me, I think Sean Dyche this year, stabilises. I think he had a really good run of form towards the end of the season. Burnley are one of those teams where there's not really a team like them in the league. They're really good defensively, really organised. I think Nick Pope, Tarkowski is so important to the way they play. I think what you'll see this season is someone like a McNeil, Brownhill, young players who've obviously got the ability to come through and begin to contribute a little bit more. And I think if they keep their forward line fit in terms of Chris Wood, Rodriguez, Barnes, I think they'll shock a few teams. That's why I think they'll push a 9th.
Yeah, I think the front three, like you just said, Barnes, Wood, Rodriguez, they're useful, aren't they? You go to Turf Moor and you know what you're going to get, a physical game. They're going to frustrate you. They'll take the chances as well. And I think Sean Dyche is done a magnificent job with the limited funds he's got, to improve them. They're not going to be like a Wolves or anything or spend like £50 million this summer. They're just going to get key assets like Josh Brown, who was a good player. Hopefully keep hold of McNeil. And then you've got Vidra pushing the other 3 as well. And you've just got experience in there, a key balance. They've got young players, players in the prime, and then they've got older players as well. And that's massively important in the Premier League. And I just think they'll tail off. I think they'll come about 12th this season. I just think Southampton, they're always a good... they're what we want to be. They're what West Ham want to be with their recruitment. They recruit well, even though they sell big names. They always reinvest smartly, and they buy players who, in a few years down the line, go on to move elsewhere. But Southampton have got a good manager, they've got good players, proven goal scoring Danny Ings, so that's why I put them up there.
Yeah, no, I'll back this thinking behind that. I actually really like Southampton. I think the model of the club's fantastic, bringing through these players. They obviously save money in that respect. I think Hasenhüttl was a really good manager. He did well at Leipzig. I think the way he plays that high-intensity football is really good to watch, but also I think for a team like Southampton means that they can push some of these top teams defensively. I think a personal favourite of mine is Nathan Redmond. I don't think he gets spoken about a lot, but he's been given in this formation a little bit of freedom to kind of drift into a number 10 role. And him and Danny Ings are so crucial to them, getting the goals and getting the results. I mean, Danny Ings is a phenomenal finisher. It's unbelievable. There's a stat saying like for, 20 shots on target, he scores about 18. And I think when you're a club like Southampton, that will push you to that top off because they're not players like that.
No, yeah, exactly. Redmond and Danny Ings are 2 of the most pivotal players. Like you said, Redmond, I'm on the board with you in the fact that he's so underrated. He's so young as well, and he offers a lot. He's kind of an inverted winger, a bit like Easy is what we need. He can cut inside and really dictate play. He links up well with Danny Ings, and then you've got James Ward-Prowse sitting in front of the defence, who just is that protective barrier almost. That just breaks up play, but he can also whip in a set piece. So they're a real threat, Southampton, and they've got good defenders as well. Competent fullbacks. They've got Walker Peters now from Southampton, so they can add a few more in, mate, then I think they'll even push for the Europa League.
Yeah, it's a good shout, mate. I think as well. Their centre backs, Bednarak and Vestergaard, and Stevens coming in as well. They're looking a little bit more solid than they have in previous seasons. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they gel as a squad next season, and how they can push on. Leeds United. I went for Leeds 10th. Yeah, I think Leeds are going to be a shock factor for a lot of teams next season.
I do. I'm not just putting them there because I'm from Leeds and loads of my mates are Leeds fans, but I just think Bielsa's different gravy. I think in terms of his analysis and what he does and his tactical kind of mindset, I don't know how they'll invest. I know they're looking at targets like Leon Bailey, trying to be ambitious and all that. But I just think there'll be a surprise package like you. And they need to upgrade the forward line. Maybe Bamford isn't Premier League level. He has a few doubters, doesn't he? But they've got Hernandez, who's done it before. And they've got Calvin Phillips, who's a very good player. So, I really like Leeds.
Yeah, I think a lot of the sort of plaudits with someone like Leeds is the style of play. Bielsa plays that real high intensity football. I've seen clips of them last season. They attack with 4 players. The wingers invert and they're able to catch the loose ball. And I think they had Jack Harrison, like you mentioned, Bamford. Some real decent players with a lot of pace and fit that system, which is so crucial for him. I think I'm interested to see Calvin Phillips and the step up from the Championship to the Premier League. We hear a lot about him being this fantastic player and, equal to Declan Rice. I think he's got a way to go. But, listen, those type of players are golden in the league. Someone that can, is physically very, very good. He's got decent passing range. It's crucial to the way that Leeds play. So I am excited to see him.
Yeah, no, I've watched him for many years. My cousin was at Leeds and he used to play with Calvin Phillips. And I always used to see how, in academy, even how good he was, just a step ahead, just the next level. He was always a standout player. And the thing is, for me, is his passing range is so good. He just does the simple things like Rice does. And he will excel. And it's a good job Leeds went up, to be fair, because if they didn't this season, he would have moved on this summer to somewhere like Villa or, some team like that, maybe a Sheffield United or Palace or something like that. But no, I think Leeds need to invest, and I think Bielsa will have the backing. Bielsa will, tell the board what he wants, and hopefully he gets that, and hopefully they do well.
Yeah, to be honest, mate, I don't think we're looking at massive, an overhaul like we've seen with past teams. I think he wants Ben White in, obviously, again, and that might not come cheap. I've heard about someone like a Batshuayi coming in, so I'm imagining that Leeds have kind of got around 50 to 60 million pounds to spend. They may spend it on 2 or 3 quality players, and Bielsa likes to have a real, solid squad that he trusts and that can fit into different positions. So I don't think we'll see too much changeability with them. I think they'll be consistent, and if they can keep up that intensity over 38 games, I think they'll finish top half.
Definitely, and Buendia as well, who's someone who they're looking at, and don't get me started on him. I just love him, but no, he could add a lot, and maybe Leon Bailey or someone like that, a marquee kind of signing that they can have, and then they've got Jack Harrison as well, and maybe a few backup options, and I think they'll do really well. But it's down, if they do well this season, it's down to Bielsa's tactics. It's all down to him. It's all down to how he implements his style, and the fullbacks pushing high up, and then the wingers coming centrally to support Bamford or whoever else. I think it's a joy to watch.
Yeah, and then we've obviously got another highly rated manager in Carlo Ancelotti at Everton. Everton are a real strange project at the moment. They spent a lot of money on players that don't quite fit. I think Ancelotti tried to roll the dice a little bit with a couple of academy players towards the end of the season to try and fit that system. I can't see them finishing top half, and the reason why is there's too much deadwood at Everton. If he can get them playing his system and he can get rid of a few of the players that he doesn't fancy, as Sigurdsson or whatever, maybe Everton can start to gel and push towards the end. But I just think for now that I'm not seeing enough from them to suggest that they're going to be a real threat next season.
Yeah, I'm the same, mate. I guess they're a bit like us. They're willing to spend. Well, we were last season, and they just don't get the right players. I think they just have a lot of players there that Ancelotti maybe doesn't want. I know they've got Calvert-Lewin, who's a good player. Moise Kean is a good player. He's young and he's coming through. And I can't see them pushing for the top half either. I think they're in kind of a limbo Everton where, they they can become European contenders and all that, but at the same time, they need to be careful not to be dragged in towards the bottom half of the table. So yeah, it's a weird one with Everton. Can't really put my finger on it.
Yeah, neither can I. Just sort of thinking about it now. I think Luca Dean is really a really good player, like a left back. He offers so much going forward. He's decent defensively. I think he's one of their standout players.
Yeah.
I don't know. Richarlison is a key member of the squad. I think if Richarlison's banging form, I think Everton do all right next season. But they rely way too heavily on him. Way too heavily on him.
Yeah, he's only 22 or something. They've got
He's
Gomez
still quite
as
young,
well.
yeah.
Gomez is a good player in the middle, but players like Bernard and stuff, I think they need to upgrade personally. But no, I think Ancelotti will have. He's a good manager to have there because he's a leader. You know, he's experienced. But I think they may struggle next season. And the fact that Ancelotti, the big teams he's been at, he's had a lot of options. He's had a lot of world class options. And at Everton, he's not really got that bar. Maybe Richarlison. So yeah, I think they'll find it tough next season.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. I think I've heard them being linked with Decore and stuff like that. I think they're brilliant signs if they can get them in.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Again, like we say with all of these, it could completely change depending on who leaves and who goes. So we shall see. Sheffield United, I think you've gone a little bit higher than I have, but for me, I think they'll tail off a little bit from last season. There was a surprise element to them. I think a lot of teams thought they were going to play a certain way. They switched it up with the back three and the wing backs. They caught a lot of teams on the counter. I'm interested to see how they deal with losing players like Henderson. I'm also interested to see how players like Sander Berg can come on this season. And then I think a lot of that will depend on where they finish.
Yeah. I think, they're not going to spend a lot of money. Wilder won't have a lot of money at disposal, but I think he knows what he wants, which is the difference between teams like Sheffield United doing well and maybe Palace who settle for mediocrity, if that's not harsh on Palace. But no, I think Sander Berge is a good player. They've got the likes of Baldock, of course, bombing forward. They've got a few striker options, but maybe they need to upgrade in that area. Because I'm not sure about, obviously, if Musei's staying or players like that. And obviously Henderson's going, but they've got Ramsdale in, who's a good keeper. So I think they're recruiting smart. Sheffield United, I think they had a good season last season, better than expected. But I think around 11th, 12th for me will be solid.
Yeah, I mean, you discussed it, especially with their goals. I think they're good at getting goals from different areas. I think even when we touched on John Lundstrom, his ability to get forward, supporting that, the front line meant that they could create more chances. But not sold on players like Goldrick and McBurney. I don't know if they're Premier League quality, and I think that could come back to bite them if they're struggling to, get the goals that are going to help them push on. So I kind of feel they'll just mill around that mid-table. Yeah,
I actually quite like McGoldrick as a player. I think he's a good footballer. I just don't think the look has been there for him in terms of goals and stuff. And I just think they need a bit more flair. Sheffield United, they rely too heavily on the wing backs to provide ammunition to the strikers with the crosses and stuff. I know it's effective, but if you can add a bit of flair, maybe like a Musei kind of player who's going to come in and provide a bit of pace, maybe they'll push up. But signing contracts, was it John Egan? That's vital for Sheffield United if they're going to reaffirm the Premier League status and stuff, and it's vital for them. So hopefully they can have a good season because I like them. I like Wilder. I don't like the fans, but I like the way they're playing their ideas. So
yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they push on this season. Then we come to relegation candidates.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So this is 14th down to 20th. So I have put West Ham 14th.
Yep.
Let's touch on them. There isn't enough activity in this window currently for me to suggest that we'll be able to push on massively this season. I haven't seen enough in the fullback areas that suggest they're going to bring anybody in. My biggest concern is this talk of not us having any money. And if we go down this route of selling before buying, we're not progressing as a club. We're not building on the players we've already got. And obviously a lot of that is tied in with Declan Rice. If someone like him goes, we'll push down that table for me.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I think the owners are hanging us out to dry. I really do. I think it only takes a Rice to go who's going to be irreplaceable, and we're not going to spend it wisely, or something like that will really put us in trouble. Because without Rice last season, we would have gone down. There's no doubt about it. Or we would have definitely struggled. I don't know. I don't see any movement. We need a left back. We need Rico Henry is available, but before long, some other club like Leicester will snatch him up, or You know, I don't see us identifying these weaknesses like other clubs are doing, being proactive. That makes me think that we'll push up the table and have a kind of exciting season. You know, we need a striker now. Yeti's gone. There's nothing but that. There's no even striker on a shortlist. You know, and I think we need to sell before we buy, and I think we will sell a few players. I think we'll bring in a few too. But if we want to get out of this kind of flirting with relegation kind of situation we've been in the last few years, we need to upgrade on the fullbacks, both of them, and I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to this, isn't there? Like, if we're going to progress as a club, the fullbacks are a key issue. If we're going to stabilise, we've got to have the relevant squad depth. And I think with some of these areas, like you touched on, the striker positions, or potentially even centre-back, we're one injury away from struggling. And it's not just about saying, well, you know, we've got three centre-backs. If we play with two, we'll be all right. You know, if Moyes wants to change it up and go with the three at the back, and he doesn't have, you know, three senior centre-backs, we can't play a certain style of football, you know. Same with a striker. You know, when Allaire was injured for a little bit, Antonio comes in. So
yeah,
that's the issue I have with these owners. It's not just about progressing as a club and recruitment. It's about looking at the squad as a whole. And West Ham never really seem to get that balance right.
No, they don't, exactly. But on the bright side, you can look at, you know, Souček's coming in, has done a good job. We've locked someone like him since Kouyaté left. Potentially Ease if he comes in, you know, and Diangana, you've got him coming back. Hopefully we don't sell him, because I know there'll be an uproar if we do, because he's a quality player and someone that we lacked last season. And then, you know, but it's all ifs and buts, mate. It's, you know, we've always said this, and I just don't. We should know better than to hope that they're going to spend, because they won't. I think they're just hanging us out to dry, and eventually we'll go down, and we'll be left from there. But you know, you got to look at the bright side. Maybe Moyes is backed with a few players, but I don't see us bringing in 5 or 6 players. I think it'll be 1 or 2 at most.
Yeah, you know, you are right. I am being a bit negative, but I think if you have Diangana, Bowen, potentially Ease, and you bring him in, I think that is a really positive, you know, attacking that are only going to develop with someone like Souček and Rice as the sitting players. I think that's a balanced midfield, in my opinion. There's obviously a lot of players with decent work rate in there. It's just key positions for me. Sort the key positions out.
Yeah.
And I think we can start to be a little bit more optimistic.
I think we could go on about West Ham all day, couldn't we? But I think the bottom line is someone like Easy is needed. I think, especially if Anderson and Lanzini goes, you know, just a bit of flair, a bit of young, exciting talent. I think the fullbacks we need to upgrade on, and then we need another centre back like Shane Duffy who gives us a bit of leadership, you know, like Ogbonna. Because I think Diop is I like him, but he's very inconsistent. If we can get 45 million from him, I'd you know, snatch your hand off, because I don't think he's what West Ham need currently.
Yeah, it's a good point, mate. It's a good point. We could talk about this all day, but we'll let people go on the West Ham one if they're in.
Yeah.
Newcastle. Me and you have gone for Newcastle 15th. I think they did well-ish last season. I don't think they, you know, pulled up any trees in particular. I think Bruce is a decent-ish manager that's been able to stabilise a few players in there. Almiron seems to have done all right. I think they've got that wild card in Saint-Maximin, who's an unbelievable player. So I think they've got that element of surprise, but I haven't seen anything for them to suggest that they're going to go and improve on the quality of the playing staff. And obviously that failed takeover is really going to, it maybe even impact morale.
Yeah, maybe. You know, I think they were waiting for that takeover for a while, weren't they? It was mulling over for months whether if it was going to happen or not. I think Jeff Hendricks is a good-ish signing. You know, it's he'll provide options. You know, but like you said, they rely heavily on Saint-Maximin and Almiron to do the work for them. They're 2 very good players. But Joe Linton obviously hasn't done as well as people thought he would, because it's a steep price tag for him. You know, so I'm not sure. I think that's a respected position for them. I think Steve Bruce did a really good job last season. For me, he should have been on the Manager of the Year shortlist for what he had at his disposal. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, mate, I think that's a fair position. I can't see them going any higher, and I can't see them being in a relegation dogfight either. So. Yeah,
no. I think they've got. That's what I'm saying with someone like Steve Bruce. They've got enough to stay in the division. But if I was a Newcastle fan, I'd be a little bit disappointed that there's no sign of improvement. I think it's obviously frustrating when you see a club not really push on. But I think they'll be okay. I mean, that's the consolation.
Yeah, hopefully. I do like them. I do like the fan base. I like the club. So fingers crossed. But yeah, they rely heavily on Saint Maximin, who I think is different class. So
someone I'm not too keen on as a club is Crystal Palace. Just because I just don't like them. But I've gone for 16th with them. You switched it with West Ham. You said they'd finish 14th. I think, to be honest, mate, Palace are the team that don't look like they want to go anywhere. They rely so heavily on Wilfried Zaha to create a lot of their chances. He's obviously agitating for a move, so I think.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? Yeah.
So a lot is up in the air on whether they can keep him or not. I don't think they'll keep him because I think he'll go. If they can bring in, I mean, I hope they don't bring in Easy, but they could look to bring him in as a cheaper option and strengthen elsewhere. That might help them a little bit. I feel like they lack squad depth up front. I think Jordan Ayew's done well. I think they've got players that do well, like Gary Cahill, Milivojevic, but there's not enough depth in there for me to suggest that they could push on.
No, I don't think. No, I don't, mate. I completely agree with you. Couldn't say any better myself. I think they don't really have the money and the backing to push on. I think they'll be like us. They'll just be in and around the relegation area, especially if Zaha leaves. Like you said, he's like Newcastle for Saint Maximin. They just rely so heavily on him. If he moves to Arsenal, maybe, or you saw that banner, didn't you, in the club where he was there pointing at the banner? So that'll agitate a few of their fans. And no, I think Palace are solid. They've got a few good players in Milivojevic. I think Jordan Ayew is useful. Van Aanholt is decent. Tompkins, obviously. So I don't think they're a bad side, but I don't think I just can't see them finishing any higher, mate.
Yeah, and I think it kind of highlights the good job that someone like Roy Hodgson has done, albeit last season they didn't do as well. Season before last, they seemed to press on a little bit towards that mid-table position. The argument would be, if they have another bad season, do they stick or twist? And I think it's one of those things where if he goes, they could be risking their safety.
Yeah, of course. It's one of them. They just need to think carefully, because Roy Hodgson has experience, and he was there with Fulham, wasn't he, a few seasons ago at the relegation dogfight, so he knows what he's going to get. He's a bit like Sam Allardyce in that sense. So I know they can be more ambitious, and Palace are an ambitious side. And they want to bring good players in, and they want to push for mid-table like they did a few seasons ago. But again, like you said, there's that risk factor that if you do opt for someone else and then the wheels come off, that you're looking at a relegation. So, So yeah.
So not a good season for them, but
No.
17th, we've both gone for Aston Villa. I think Aston massively lucky to stay up last time around, albeit they did turn their form around towards the end. Obviously, that handball, was the deciding factor, to be honest, in points. They rely really heavily on Jack Grealish, who I think is a fantastic player. He's done really well in that side. I've seen a few come through. I think Douglas Luiz is a really good holding midfielder. I think Villa have been really unlucky in terms of strikers. They brought in Wesley, who I actually thought was quite decent, real good physical presence. They lost him, and they think they're looking at Ollie Watkins. So for me, it's very much dependent on recruitment. I know Villa have got a little bit of money kicking around, so if they can address going forward and bringing in players to support Jack Grealish, if he stays, I think they could look to do better than 17th. But if it stays as is, I think they'll finish there.
Yeah, I have a sneaky feeling Grealish will stay for another season. I think it was heavily dependent on if they were going to go down. But yeah, I think the problem with Villa is they spent too much money when they come up. I think they spent too much unnecessary money. Obviously, Wesley's a good signing. Tyrone Mings is a good signing.
Yeah.
But then you've got who's that? Nakamba, Trezeguet's hit and miss. Ogazi's hit and miss. I think that for me, they need more experience and to build their team solely around Jack Grealish and how it complements his style and how they play. But I think, like you said, I agree with you that it's down to the recruitment this summer. And if they get Watkins in, maybe to push Wesley and Ben Rama, maybe they'll have a good season. But I think it's difficult. They can't invest too much, as silly as it sounds, because that could almost backfire. But I think they have a good manager. They have good fans, so I think they'll just do it.
Yeah, I think it's about consistency, isn't it? I think keeping all of your best players and Tyrone Mings and Grealish, and keeping players fit for a long time, like a Wesley. I think they could look to have a decent-ish season. I think Villa fans are probably realistic about where they are as a club. They're happy to be in the league. I can't see them pushing on massively unless they pick up a good run of form. I think over the course of the season, you'll see them in and around 14th to 17th. For me, there are too many decent clubs out there that are going to be in that mid-table. So I think they'll just finish lower half.
Yeah, completely agree with you, mate.
Yeah, and then we come to the relegated teams that some fans are going to get all upset about. But
this is tasty. This one, yeah.
It's just our opinion, so just relax with it. But let's start with 18th. I went for Fulham. So
Fulham.
I think Fulham, as a club, I think Scott Parker's done magnificently well. I spoke to a Fulham fan the other day for the channel. He says that the strategy going up will be slightly different from last time. There won't be the same outlay in terms of money. I think Parker has him playing a good possession style of play. I think he showed as well against Brentford that he's able to switch it up. He played very defensive, played almost a false nine with Onuma. So he's tactically astute. And I think he did okay as well when he came in for Ranieri last time. But it's purely to do with the quality of the squad for me. I think he has to get the right players in. Even when I was speaking to the Fulham fan, he was saying people like Tom Kearney that me and you may look at as a good player. He said he's dropped off a little bit and he's not the same. And it's very much, can they get the right players in? Premier League experience. We spoke about Shane Duffy coming to West Ham. He would be a good signing for Fulham, if they were looking to stay in that division.
Of course, and they've got Anthony Robertson as well, who provides a bit of pace. But that confused me, that signing, though, because they've got Joe Bryan there, who's very, who's obviously scored both goals in the final to get them up. But I think Parker's got a good strategy, and like last time they spent too much money, like Villa did. That was ultimately their downfall and why they got relegated. But they've got Mitrovic, like you said, they've got Onuma, they've got Kamara as well. So they've got players there, but ultimately, it's like you said, it's down to the finances, mate, and how they make their signings and what areas they need to improve in. For me, like you said, Shane Duffy maybe, and more experience, maybe like a Lord Lundstrom, someone like that who can give them a bit of experience and fight in the middle. But I think, not to be harsh on them, they've got one of the weaker squads in the league. But it's a shame because I like Scotty Parker. I like him as a person, his managerial prowess, if you like. But it depends on their summer window.
Yeah, and I think we touched on it. It massively depends on Mitrovic to get the goals. Like,
yeah.
What impresses me so much about him is his work rate. I think he's been linked with West Ham a couple of times, but his finishing as well. Obviously, his temperament lets him down on occasion where you could go missing for 5 games because he's elbowed someone. But he's one of them players. If they can keep him fit, they've got a chance.
Yeah, he's a goal scorer, Mitrovic. He's I've always liked him. He's a bit like Arnie, a bit of a, I can't really say it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Sorry, mate, we know what you mean.
But no, of course you need goals to stay up and win games, and Mitrovic provides that. Maybe they can look at bringing in someone else as well to push him and provide a different kind of dynamic going forward. But no, I think they've got a chance. I think they'll win games for them. They'll get the results, but I don't know if they'll stay up.
Yeah, no, not for me either. I think me and you both had Brighton in the relegation zone. I just feel like they play some decent stuff. I'm not saying that they don't. I think the signing of, I think it's Veltman from Ajax, Lallana from Liverpool are solid signings. I really do think that. I think they'll add experience and quality. I think they've got okay options up front with someone like Neil Maupay, who's done well in the league. But I think that defensively there are lapses, and we've seen that last season. I think as well that the up-front options, when Maupay's injured and albeit, Glenn Murray does relatively okay, they just don't have enough, and they don't even have almost like a plan B. And I think when you're around those kind of teams, you need something else to throw a wild card on or do something to change it up. And for me, there's not enough movement to suggest that they're going to do that next season.
That's exactly it. Remember when we drew 3-3 with them at the London Stadium? I thought on the ball they were actually very impressive. I thought they kept the ball nicely, but it's their attacking outlet. I know they got Trossard and Maupay, but it's about the squad depth. Murray's knocking on those at 34. And I just don't think they have enough goals in them. They got a lot of 0-0 draws last season, or 1-1 draws, or they lost from a winning position. So yeah, I think they've got experience. Lallana. I think Lallana's an okay signing. Joe Veltman's a good signing. But I don't know. I just, like you said, they don't have a different plan B. They don't, if they're losing a game, they don't switch it up. They don't. Yeah, mate. I don't know. I'm lost for words, but I just can't really see them staying up.
It's tough, isn't it? Because it's kind of like I like what Graham Potter's trying to do. I do think he's trying to do a really good job with the team, obviously, where the quality. isn't as high. He obviously did a brilliant job at Swansea. I like certain players as well. I think Lamptey's going to be a good player, and to get him as well as a signing from Chelsea is good. Keeping Dunk is phenomenal business for me. Maybe if they keep Ben White, we're looking at maybe 16th, 15th, but there's just not enough quality for me going forward to suggest they're going to really push up the table.
Yeah, it depends on their recruitment, mate. You know, the one of them, if they recruit well, they could prove us wrong and finish 10th or 11th or something like that.
Well, mate, there's so many teams in there like that. Do you know what I mean? You know, Sheffield United have a good season. Leeds could come up and do really well or concede a lot of goals. We just don't know.
That's why it's a headache, mate, picking this one, because there's so many teams this season for me where they could finish anywhere. You know, even we could go down, or Sheffield United could go down, and West Brom could surprise us and, you know, stay up on the Super Slab. I'd love that, but that's why it gives me a headache, because it almost feels like Brighton are too good to go down. But I think Brighton, they haven't recruited well. They've kind of settled for what they've had, and they're a bit like Watford in that sense, where Watford didn't really invest, and they kind of settled, and it was their downfall in a way. So I think that's what will happen with Brighton this season.
And then we come to dead last, West Brom. Now, I feel bad because obviously Super Slab, Julian Dix, we've obviously got an affinity with them. Listen, I like West Brom. I really do. I think, you know, players like Pereira are quality operators. I think that's a brilliant signing for them to get him in. But they've lost a lot. I think there are players like Kieran Gibbs that are potentially leaving. Obviously, Grady's gone back to West Ham. You know, you're looking at Nathan Ferguson's gone to Palace. They've lost a lot of key players for them. And I haven't seen enough to suggest that they're going to improve or even replace with the quality that they had. So I'm unsure as to what their strategy is coming into this season.
I don't think they'll be big spenders. I think it's one of them where, you know, obviously Pereira was important to sign him on. I think they need, who have they got up front, West Brom? Got Austin.
Cal Robson-Parnham, I think, is still there.
Yeah, and they had Callum Robinson, didn't they? You know, he's good for the Championship and had a great season, but in terms of Premier League, I think they'll need to invest quite a lot, you know, in maybe if you get Grady back and, you know, I think they're good in midfield. They've got Romain Sawyers, you know, they've got Pereira, they've got some good players like Livermore who can add a bit of fight, and a bit like a Burnley way, frustrate you maybe. But I just think in terms of attacking and defensively as well, like you said, they've lost a few key players there, and I can't see any way out for Slav, unfortunately, as much as I'd like him to succeed next season.
That's going to be a real tough one for him, mate. Like we even touched on it. I think he relied heavily on your Dean Garners and your Pereira, so he looked to get goals from that midfield. You know, we saw it to an extent at West Ham where he enjoyed having the Payets and Lanzinis to get forward and get the goals. For me, it's a quality issue. You know, he's got to have quality all over the pitch. I think the only thing I can touch on is I saw an interview with their director of football that come in, and he said that when he came in a few seasons ago, basically the idea was to get rid of an aging squad, bring in youthful players, which he has done to an extent, but not to go crazy in this Premier League season. I think we could be looking at a very similar aspect to Norwich, where they come up, they look to spend a little bit of money, maybe a little bit more, but they are very much aware of where they are as a club. And listen, West Brom are the masters of going up and down and up and down, so I don't think it bothers them too much.
Yeah, boing in a literal sense, isn't it, really? They're like a yo-yo club, West Brom. They'll always be up and down, up and down. I don't know. Yeah, you've hit it bang on with Norwich. The fact that they won't spend a lot. You know, they'll get players in that you might think, oh, they'll do a decent job, but I just can't really see them winning many games. Maybe getting a few draws, scraping that, but I just think some teams will go West Brom or have them at home and just play them off the park and nullify the likes of Pereira, you know, and players like that, and get around Livermore, who's quite slow as well. And but yeah, I can't see it, mate.
Yeah, neither can I. Sorry, West Brom fans. That's just what it is. Brilliant, mate. So we've covered all of the Premier League teams, where we think they're going to finish. We don't know, as we've said, this transfer window could throw up a few surprises, particularly as well when we start the season. Some teams might just go throw a curveball in there and all of a sudden our predictions look a little bit silly.
Probably, that's what will probably happen. We'll sit down in a year's time and Brighton will be fourth, mate.
Yeah, they'll be top four, yeah, exactly. Brilliant, mate. Well, thanks for your time. You'll be back on again, of course.
It's a pleasure, mate, as always. Thank you.
No problem at all. Right, you lot. Until next time, take care.
See you later.